You're listening to The Secrets of Star Trek, where we discuss the hidden layers and deeper meanings found in all the Star Trek TV series, movies, and more. And today we're discussing the Next Generation episode, The Big Goodbye. I'm Dom Bettinelli, and joining me today on the panel are Father Cory Sticha. Hey, Father Cory.
Hi, Dom.
You said that at the end. And Jimmy Akin. Hey, Jimmy.
Goodbye, Dom.
Sounds like a comedy bit. Remember to like The Secrets of Star Trek on Facebook, where we're at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. Retweet us on Twitter. I'm going to say it till the day I die, or as long as it exists, at SQPN, and leave us comments wherever you find us on social media. We love to hear from you. And I want to tell you about another show on the StarQuest Network you are sure to enjoy called The Secrets of Technology, which you can find wherever fine podcasts are found or at sqpn.com/technology. So we are talking about The Big Goodbye, which is a first season TNG episode, episode 12, with all the attendant problems that it brings. But Jimmy, can you give us a recap of what happens in this story?
This week, the Enterprise is on its way to establish diplomatic relations with a murderous race of highly persnickety insects known as the Haradans. The Haradans will talk only to Picard as the captain of the ship, and they will fly into a murderous rage if he pronounces even one sound in the greeting in their language wrong. Picard is stressing over how to pronounce the greeting. Duh. So Troy recommends that he take a break on the newly upgraded holodeck, and he decides to play in a detective story featuring Dixon Hill, who is really a knockoff of the real-world fictional character, there's an oxymoron for you, Philip Marlowe. So we get an homage to the 1941 film The Maltese Falcon. Picard, Dr. Crusher, Data, and a 20th century historian named Whalen go into the program, but the insect Haradan jerks scan the Enterprise, causing the very first holodeck malfunction. And one of the characters in the story, based on Peter Lorre's Joel Cairo character from the Maltese Falcon, shoots the historian Whalen and injures him nearly fatally, giving us our first safeties off holodeck situation. This leads our heroes to discover that they can't leave the holodeck to keep the drama going. But soon, Wes and Geordi are able to restore proper holodeck function. As this is happening, Picard has been explaining to the episode Big Bad, Cyrus Redblock, a character based on actor Sidney Greenstreet from the Maltese Falcon, that he, Picard, comes from another world of fabulous riches. It is a world that contains objects of much more value than the item that Redblock is seeking, a coded reference to the Maltese Falcon itself. When Wes and Geordi get the doors open, Redblock and Leech go in search of more valuable treasures in this greater world that Picard has spoken of. But since they're holodeck characters, the psychoplasm that they're made of starts to melt. They disintegrate upon leaving the holodeck. Data then takes the historian Whalen to sickbay to treat his almost mortal wound, and Picard stays behind to say goodbye to his cop friend McNary, giving us the title's reference to The Big Goodbye. Afterwards, Picard comes to the bridge and pronounces the Haradan greeting perfectly, opening a new era between the Haradans and the Federation. The end.
So, Father Cory, what'd you think of this one?
Well, this is the one that set the template for The Crew is Trapped on the Holodeck, and is exactly like every The Crew is Trapped on the Holodeck episode. The film noir theme, the Dixon Hill theme is a great one. I mean, it is very much beloved by many fans for good reason. It's a great theme, and it's a great holodeck story as far as that's concerned. But it's still a Picard and crew are trapped on the holodeck story.
How about you, Jimmy?
Of all the bad episodes in season 1, this is one of the less bad ones. The Dixon Hill stuff is there. It's okay. It's not really a story. If you don't know the Maltese Falcon, you're not going to know what's going on. And we never get any payoff. That story doesn't resolve. The villain, Cyrus Redblock, walks off the holodeck and disintegrates with his Peter Lorre knockoff. And actually, The Big Goodbye, even though they explain it at the end as Picard saying goodbye to his holodeck cop friend, Yeah, no, that's not what The Big Goodbye would be. The title is a fusion of The Big Sleep and The Long Goodbye. In both of those, The Big Sleep and The Long Goodbye are references to death, which is a common theme in, dime novel detective stories and in film noir themed movies. So The Big Goodbye should be death.
Right.
But it's not. And yeah, this episode is so first season. I can cut it some slack, even though it became the wellspring of holodeck cliches. But it is the wellspring. It's not just a repeating of the cliches. So that it does involve some creativity. And so I want to give it credit for that. It's not this episode's fault that later episodes knocked it off so egregiously in just lifting wholesale plot elements from it. So I can give this one some credit. It's okay, but wow, is the writing stiff, and wow, is the acting stiff.
As I approached it, I realized that, this is the first of a lot of different things that would become common, become tropes in next gen era Star Trek. And, it's the first holonovel. It's the first, it's the first of everything. And it's so clearly, most of this episode is clearly playing with the idea of what would it be like to be in this space that couldn't be anything. And as someone who has seen hundreds and hundreds of Star Trek episodes, I felt I loved it the first time I saw it, 40 years ago. It felt a little boring this time because it felt just like, okay, let's get past the novelty of the holodeck and tell a story.
I know, they just gush about it so much. It's like, come on. Yeah.
Well, they there's a couple of things that they do here that they later get rid of in holodeck stories. One is how the characters inside the holodeck, they notice when you're not wearing period appropriate costume, and they're very much aware of the way you talk, and whereas later on holodeck characters will ignore when the crew members talk about things that they shouldn't be aware of, and that sort of thing. So that sort of stuff is present here.
And present here is lipstick that does not dissolve once you get off the holodeck, because the knockoff of Mrs. Wonderly from the Maltese Falcon kisses Picard square on the kisser, and he doesn't know it, but he's walking around on the Enterprise with lipstick all over his face.
No one points it out to him either.
No. Well, he is the captain. Do you really want to point? Sir.
Captain, you got something a little bit.
It was fun to see It was fun to see the crew members kind of turn and look as he walks by. But
does the captain have lipstick on?
Another thing that they said here that you never see again is, I think it was Geordi says, "Program abort will cause the people to vanish."
Right.
And of course, we never see that again. We see times when the program crashes, and all you see is the hologrid.
Yeah.
Right, which is the way you would want it to be, because I'm not getting in something that I vanish if it crashes.
Exactly.
I know computers. Computers can crash. I don't want to die when my computer crashes.
Your data might crash, but at least you don't disappear.
Right.
One thing you mentioned about how the actors were very wooden, it was very much a first season acting, except Brent Spiner. Brent Spiner had fun with this. He did. Where he was playing you want me to rough him up, boss?
Yeah. He gets the voice, the character.
He did better with acting, but he was still given wooden dialogue.
Yeah. The other thing that we have here is that flirting with Picard and Crusher. We see that again when he first invites her to go onto the holodeck and see it with him when they're at that briefing. She's thinking, "Oh, I'm being asked out on a date." And I'm like, "In front of everyone, including your son? That's weird and awkward." And then we can invite Waylon too. It's like, "Oh, I guess not a date."
Never mind.
And there's a scene later in the holodeck where she comes to the police station where he's been interrogated, and he's like, "Okay, let's get out of here." And she says, "Wait, can we see your office?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, why don't you and I go to my office?" And they're building it up as this big romantic thing. And then Waylon and Data invite themselves along too, and Picard and Beverly are both clearly disappointed.
Yeah.
So there's a word that I will not say for what Waylon and Data just did, but they did that word.
The nice term is third wheel. They were the third wheel.
They became the third wheel. Well, and so that whole flirting relationship thing was much more prevalent in the first season. They were really, I feel like they were really going to play
Build
this up.
To something.
And then eventually they kind of, it never really went away, but it got backburnered.
Well, she left.
She got
Beverly
fired.
Crusher. Yeah. And when she came back in the third season, that they just kind of dropped it, or like you said, they really put it back burner.
Yeah, I mean, it opens up story possibilities if Picard and Crusher aren't attached to each other. You know, that if you want the captain to be able to, have relationships and stuff, and and have like Doctor, I don't know, meet her grandmother's ghost boyfriend.
Yeah,
or have a Trill boyfriend.
Yeah, or have a Trill boyfriend, or the various things she has. I was amused from a computer science standpoint of Data reading all of the Dixon Hill novels instead of just my Kindle can absorb stuff faster than Data can.
Just it should be like computer download all Dixon Hill novels to my brain.
Yeah,
Wi-Fi wasn't invented yet. The Enterprise didn't have Wi-Fi yet.
Yeah, right. The other thing interesting was how Picard was strangely lacking in knowledge of the 20th century concepts like automobiles, city blocks, Halloween. These are things that later on characters they'll remember stuff from the 20th century a lot more readily, and maybe if it is what is it 400 years in our future, I don't remember necessarily things that are everyday stuff from 400 years ago in, say, Britain.
But the 1600s.
Yeah, right.
Now, I admittedly, again, I've not seen as much TOS, but in City of Edge of Forever, didn't they kind of do that too when they go back to the 30s? Kind of like, oh yeah, this is a 1930s transportation, and
I think it was playing on that. Yeah,
they always do a little bit of that in time travel episodes, just for color to make it. Oh yeah, our characters are fishes out of water.
Yeah. So that kind of makes sense for this as well, where okay, this is 400 years in the future or whatever it is. So they don't know everything that's going on. So
do they not have city blocks in San Francisco in the 25th century?
I was struck. Well, this was still the 24th, but
24th. Yeah,
I was struck by Picard not knowing what Halloween was.
Yeah.
I was like, would he really not know what that is? Because it's such a major part of our culture now. You'd think he would have heard of it. But I was interested to see, like, Beverly does not know how high heels work, and she like stumbles over a step walking in high heels.
Right.
She also does not know feminine protocol, and she's sitting in the police station next to a woman who's clearly a prostitute.
Yep.
And she's imitating the prostitute's behavior, not realizing what the prostitute is.
Until the cop comes and takes her away. She's like, "Ew."
Yeah.
Also,
they kind of played on that too, though, where they're just having fun with the scenario. And and let's be honest, if we had something the equivalent of a holodeck, I think we would kind of do that too. So.
Oh yeah. And then the makeup thing too, where she was like copying the other woman with putting the makeup on. That too.
And she was like clearly discovering for her first time what a compact is.
Yes.
She's like pulls one out. She sees the other woman using one. She looks in her purse. She finds one. She opens it up and it's, oh, that's what this is. And then it's got face powder in it, which she accidentally blows.
Right. I mean, as we know from Voyage Home, makeup in the future is very different, right? I mean, isn't that the one where she's changing her nail color with the tip of a pen? The woman?
That I don't recall, but I assume that they're wearing like nanotechnology skin tattoos that they can readjust to anything they want.
Some little hypo-spray type thing they just kind of spray over their face and it adds the makeup as needed.
It's like an Instagram filter in real life.
Exactly.
So one of the things that kind of struck me as a bit of a plot hole was if relations with the Harada, it's spelled with a J, but it's Harada. If it's so tricky, then Riker's first contact with them, where he's like rude to
We
them.
will kill you all now.
Yeah, it should have been disastrous and set him back another 20 years. I just think that's kind of like I don't think Riker, you're going by diplomatic protocol in this situation. that was kind of weird. Also, this was great. Comms aren't working. Riker to holodeck. Silence. Riker to holodeck. Yeah, Riker, yell louder. Maybe they can't hear you.
Well, of course.
I just think it's such a natural human reaction. Like, oh, they can't hear me. I should yell louder over to the comm system.
Yep.
That was very funny.
Where's that microphone at? I need to talk closer to it.
So safety protocols.
I also like the cop who starts hitting on Beverly.
Yeah.
Gives her a stick of gum that's in a wrapper.
Yeah.
And she's clever enough, she realizes to unwrap it. And then she apparently recognizes this is something I'm supposed to eat. So she puts it in her mouth, chews it, and swallows it immediately.
Yeah.
And she puts it in like sideways, which I think is a great little Gates McFadden did a great job there, like making it look like someone who doesn't know how to chew gum the way they would put it in, like big wide mouth.
As awkward as possible. Yeah.
That was good. So the holodeck safety protocols is not yet a thing, apparently, or they don't get mentioned here anyway. But
they don't say anything about it, that there are protocols that keep you from getting killed, and that's obviously you can imagine after this episode they kind of went, we need to make sure that this isn't an issue every time we use the holodeck. So
right, they probably made a large amendment to the writer's Bible for TNG about holodecks and what's allowed, and so Weyland gets shot with. I like that his reaction is, first he falls to the ground and Beverly's like, "Oh, very nice," and she claps at his acting, quote unquote, and then no, he's really been shot when they see the blood, and his disbelieving reaction of, but they're not real. I would probably react that way too.
They're real enough.
Yeah, let's talk about Weyland for a minute, because he's one of our guest star characters that we will never see again.
Yeah,
and he's also a superfluous, unnecessary character, and it's completely ridiculous that that the Enterprise in the 24th century would have a 20th century Earth historian aboard. Not just, they should have just said, get that historian Weyland. Right. If they wanted to have a historian. But that he's a 20th century historian on a spaceship that is not assigned to time travel to the 20th century is completely ridiculous. That's like having someone on the Enterprise to go explore space who is a 3rd century BC historian.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Why do you need that on the Enterprise? Why should that be taking up a berth of one of the 1,000 people on board?
Well, and they could very easily solve that. All they would say is, "Hey, isn't Lieutenant Weyland a 20th century history buff?"
Yeah,
that's exactly my headcanon for this. Is that what he meant? He meant get that guy I know who's really into 20th century history.
He's down in engineering, but he loves 20th century history or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. And that would be okay. But even then, we really don't need that character. His only function is to get shot.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that could be performed by any of the main cast.
He's a red shirt, basically, in this case. Yeah.
Was he wearing a red tie? No, I'm kidding.
His shirt did become red. But it was interesting. I also liked the Felix Leach character in that the actor Harvey Jason does a really good Peter Lorre semi-impression. So that was pretty good.
He's not using Peter Lorre's accent.
No.
But he conveys the same kind of emotion as Peter Lorre's character in The Maltese Falcon. At one point, Picard punches him, and it's like, "You struck me! How dare you!"
Yeah. Yes, that was very good.
Well, even the way his voice sounds very much like Peter Lorre.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yeah, he's got that nasally sound. I got to tell you, I love the actor who plays Cyrus Redblock, Lawrence Tierney. I've seen him in a lot of things. He was in the Tarantino movie. Was it Reservoir Dogs?
I haven't seen that one.
There's it's a very violent, profane movie, but there's the opening scene where he's organizing a heist that is at the center of that movie, and he gives this this long speech. It's a one shot, Tarantino being fancy, but he's such a great menacing character. He has a great presence, and he's got this interesting presence here. Was Sidney Greenstreet in Maltese Falcon? Was he also erudite like this, like using big words? And
he's very much like Cyrus Redblock is in this. So in Maltese Falcon, Sidney Greenstreet, the actor, portrays a character named Casper Gutman. And Gutman is very suave and intellectual, and he is a villain, but he has a sense of humor. He's amiable. He starts getting Humphrey Bogart drunk, and it's like, I never trust a man who won't drink because he doesn't trust himself enough. And at one point, Humphrey Bogart catches him doing something. It's like, well, we must have our little joke, So he's like that. But then he will do bad things if the situation calls for it. But he is sort of the, monster claw in the velvet glove approach.
Yeah. Go ahead.
One thing I like with Cyrus Redblock, they give him one fascinating line. It's half genius and half lame. But at one point, the characters, once Redshirt has been shot, the other characters are like, "What are you going to do? Kill us?" And Redblock says, "Senseless killing is immoral." Okay, that's genius. To have in the script, to have the villain say senseless killing is immoral. The inadequate follow-up to that is, but killing for a purpose is quite often ingenious. Okay, ingenious is not the right word.
Right.
Yeah.
They needed to say something else. Like killing with a purpose can be justified, or killing with a purpose can be useful, or something like that. But I really like the fact they have the villain recognizing senseless killing is immoral.
Right. It makes the villain multifaceted.
Well,
then
he's very much the gentleman mobster.
Right.
He's very much a gentleman, and he's got his code of morality. Now, it might not be the Christian code of morality, but he's got his code of morality, and he lives by it.
I really feel like a modern version of this same character is Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin in the Marvel series, in the MCU, where he's sort of like this restrained violence. He's this very violent person inside this exterior that has rules and disciplines and expectations of behavior of others. And it's kind of an interesting, it's
similar dress too. He dresses with the suit and all that.
The bald and everything. It's a very similar idea. As a villain. I thought that was interesting. One of my favorite bits of this story was a bit of physical comedy with that Picard and Data do, which is after Wayland's been shot, Crusher calls for more light. So Data sees a lamp, picks it up, and starts to carry it over as a light source. Doesn't realize it gets unplugged, and he's like staring at it, like waiting for it to, like shaking it. And Picard just plugs it in another outlet nearby, and it goes on again. And it's just no one says anything, but it's just this funny little bit. I really like that. Data.
It's got a little bit of slapstick type comedy, vaudeville type comedy.
Business, as they call it in acting. It's a nice little bit of business.
Yes. I really feel like Brent Spiner did a lot of that in TNG, where he had little bits of, just little bit of background funny thing of Data.
And when the light turned on, Data looked pleased with himself.
Right.
Then he figured it out, not realizing, of course, that he didn't.
Right. Just like I was talking about last time on Insurrection, where the smooth as Riker's face was smooth as a android's bottom, and he just like touches it and then just kind of shakes his head like, no. I like that little bit of unspoken comedy there.
I remember seeing a few years ago, where Brent Spiner was at a convention somewhere, and he talked about how in the first season, Data was he was instructed this is how Data was going to be. And he kept kind of pushing back on that. And that's how he really influenced how Data developed by bringing in the humor, by bringing in kind of the silliness that he would do.
Right. Because an android character can be really stiff and boring if you don't
which
introduce
he was season
more.
1.
Like previous android characters on other shows.
Like chameleon. Another interesting. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Well, I was going to just mention the plot of the Maltese Falcon, because this, you won't really get it if you don't know the Maltese Falcon. In this, we see this lady show up. I forget what she calls herself. She wants to be hired by Dixon Hill. And then later we meet this leech character, and then eventually we meet the big bad, Cyrus Redblock. So, and Cyrus Redblock, the initial lady, has been killed. And there's a question of, did Dixon Hill kill her? And that's what the authorities are investigating. So he's kind of caught between trying to manage the cops and trying to manage the villains. And the villains are after something they just refer to as the item or the object, which they think that Dixon Hill has, but he really doesn't. Okay, so that's kind of the Maltese Falcon. In the Maltese Falcon, you have Philip Marlowe, and I'm going to try to not confuse it with the Big Sleep. But you have Philip Marlowe as a San Francisco detective, a woman going by multiple names, including Wonderly and Shaughnessy, approaches him asking to be hired. She is concerned for her life, and she's being chased by Joel Cairo, played by Peter Lorre, and Casper Gutman, played by Sidney Greenstreet. They're after something that is referred to as the item on occasion. What it is the Maltese Falcon. The Maltese Falcon, as we're informed in a title card at the beginning of the movie, is a jewel-encrusted falcon. It's a statuette. It's a statue of a falcon that the Knights Templar had made. And it's this fabulous art treasure that has been lost to history. But it's been discovered, and now it's thought that it's here in San Francisco. And Mrs. Wonderly / O'Shaughnessy is trying to get it. She does not get murdered. And also Cairo, who is working for Gutman, they're trying to get it too. And Philip Marlowe, the Humphrey Bogart character, is caught between the police and the bad guys in the same way. It eventually turns out this is their second attempt to get the Maltese Falcon, and that Shaughnessy has previously worked with Gutman and Cairo before. In fact, it's insinuated that in fact, Cairo, who is established in the movie as wearing some kind of flowery cologne, he's gay. And there was a previous incident in Constantinople where they almost got the Falcon, but Wonderly and Cairo both tried to woo a hotel guy into getting them the Falcon, and neither one of them could make it work. and so they kind of resent each other for that. But it eventually turns out that Wonderly was complicit in the murder of Humphrey Bogart's partner. And at the end of the film, they're able to get what they think is the Falcon, but it's been covered over in like enamel to disguise it. And it should be this jewel-encrusted treasure underneath. Well, they start picking at the enamel, and it's a lead statue. And so Gutman and Casper assume they've been tricked again. They go off to find the real statue, and Bridget O'Shaughnessy is left with Humphrey Bogart, and they've got a thing going by this point. But Humphrey Bogart tells Bridget O'Shaughnessy, "I'm not taking the fall for you. You killed my partner when your partner died." He was a fool, but when your partner dies, you're supposed to do something. "I'm not taking the fall for you. You're going to go to prison, and I'll be waiting for you in 20 years. And as for what the Falcon is, it's just a lead statue. It's the stuff that dreams are made of." So that's the plot of the Maltese Falcon that they're drawing on in this episode.
Spoilers for a 60-year-old movie. No, just
hey,
kidding.
yeah. If you're not up on the classics, time to get up on them.
Great movie. Right. It's one of Bogart's greatest.
It's one of the best movies of all time. Yeah, definitely. A couple of interesting notes in this one. Picard looks at a newspaper on this, when in the holodeck San Francisco. DiMaggio's streak reaches 37. That occurred on June 25th, 1941. So we have a date for when this occurs. But we're told that an unnamed baseball player, Data says, will break DiMaggio's record for longest consecutive hitting streak, and he'll be a member of the London Kings. That gets paid off in Deep Space Nine.
Buck Buckeye.
Buck Buckeye of the London Kings is the one who breaks it.
Speaking of DS9, another thing gets paid off in DS9. The newspaper vendor is the actor Dick Miller. Of course, he's been in many things, like he was in Gremlins and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
He was in DS9's episode, two-parter, Past Tense. He was the leader of the hostage takers during the Bell Rebellion.
The Bell Riots, yeah. Okay.
Or riots, yeah.
Yeah,
so
we see him again.
Yep, same actor.
Interesting. Couple of holodeck-related things. In this, Cyrus Redblock and Felix Leach, they don't begin to dissolve until after they're fully off the holodeck, presumably beyond the range of the holo emitters, which we will find out in the future. That changes over time. Although, doesn't this also happen to Moriarty too, where he gets off the holodeck a bit?
Well, that's a trick. He's not really off the holodeck. He's making the holodeck make it look like he's off the holodeck.
That's right. Okay, right. That's
because later on you see him where, like, I think there was one character who sticks his hand through, and of course the hand cuts off right at the door.
Right.
Until he pulls it back.
Yes. The other thing is the only time that the holodeck has two exits. Yeah. That confused me a lot the first time I watched this, because the door finally opens and they walk out. I'm like, where's Geordi and Wesley and the others who were there?
Right.
So
very noticeable.
Yeah. Although earlier Picard sends Data out to see if he could find the door out in the hall. Like, there's a door in the hall too. It's kind of funny. But now that we, again, familiar with holodecks, it feels funny and weird.
Yep. Yeah, and I think they have the two doors in it just for dramatic purposes in this episode, so they don't have to have the motion because they want it to end with Picard saying goodbye to McNary. And it's an effective goodbye. McNary, who has come to realize I'm a holodeck character and my wife and kids are holodeck characters, says, "Tell me something, Dix. When you go, will this world still exist? Will my wife and kids still be waiting for me at home?" Which is, I'd want to know that too. Right. And Picard says, "I honestly don't know." Well, okay, rationally, the answer should be a flat no. It's not going to exist.
Yeah.
But Moriarty. So, there's some justification there. And that's how they want this to end. That's the big goodbye for the episode. But the problem is that's not what should happen. You've got a wounded guy. As soon as the doors open, Wesley and Geordi ought to be there. You ought to have Data pick the guy up, carry him to sickbay, or just beam him to sickbay. Picard should be going with his injured crew member, not staying behind talking to fantasy characters.
Right.
And oh, by the way, the wife and kids probably don't even exist.
Yeah.
They're just, he in his memory.
Background. Yeah. Background information. I do like, although it doesn't make sense within the show, I do like the as he leaves the holodeck, the lights dim, it goes dark. It's very much a stage moment. It's like a play. And I think they're trying to play up the idea that the holodeck is like being in a play. And so I can take that for like a little dramatic license to do that. So one thing that kind of has always bothered me. So after all of this anticipation, this very important meeting with this alien race, we're going to reestablish diplomatic relations with this very touchy species of people
that we never hear of again.
Well, he gives the greeting and it's like, ooh, that was really stressful. All right, bye. What's the diplomatic relations? So you got to talk to them again? It was very strange that they just left at the end of it. So that was my reaction at the end. Father Cory, anything else you want to say about this one?
We've mentioned his name like 3 times, but Wesley is of course, the super nerd engineer who's memorized everything about the holodeck. This is one of the episodes why he was so disliked by fans, because he was the super nerd.
Yeah.
But and we see LaForge kind of moving into his engineering position.
Yeah, right. Because you would normally have the chief engineer be the one down there, and I think it just naturally fits.
This is where they had kind of the rotating chief engineers too. So
right, I think Picard got sick of the chief engineers, and Geordi, you're it. Anything else?
Nope.
Jimmy, how about you?
Nope.
Very good. All right. Then we'd like to take a moment now to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create The Secrets of Star Trek. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue The Secrets of Star Trek and all the shows at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. We'd also like to thank Victor Lambs, who edited this episode for us. So that's it from us this time. What do you think of The Big Goodbye? You can let us know by commenting on the show at sqpn.com/trek or our Facebook page at facebook.com/starquestmedia. Send an email to trek@sqpn.com or visit our Discord community at sqpn.com/discord. Or you can watch The Secrets of Star Trek on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/starquestmedia and leave a comment there. We'll be back next time when we'll be discussing the Deep Space Nine episode Progress. Until then, Jimmy Akin, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Trek.
Thank you. Live long and prosper. And if I leave town, the town leaves with me.
And Father Cory Sticha, thank you as well.
Thank you. Hi and goodbye.
And once again, I'm Dom Bettinelli.
Hello, I must be going.
And thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Trek on StarQuest. And remember, it was raining in the city by the bay. A hard rain. Hard enough to wash the slime. Data!